again to Inside the World of Boxing. The MVP race today. We're going to talk about what could happen with the playoffs. Things are crazy for us. I know you're saying stuff.
Oh, actually, hang on 1 second, guys. Sorry to jump in here. I forgot to change the audio to the speaker. We'll be right back, everybody. 1 second. Technical issue. No, nobody. Hello, lacrosse friends, and welcome to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. And this time we mean it. We had no sound last time, but we got all the sound, all the audio, just like Charity Beecher in the background. And Greg Beecher is here too. I'm Steven Stamp with Adam Levy. It has been a wild stretch for the National Lacrosse League. So many playoff possibilities and scenarios. We're going to look into those in a little bit. There is so much going on heading into the final week of the season. It's been wild in New York for Adam. I am in Peterborough. I'm normally in Marmora. I'm in Peterborough because we're in the process of moving in with my mom to take care of her. Carrie is operating one of her final exams for nursing school. I was at my mother's house. My cell service is usually pretty good. It wasn't good. It wasn't going to work for the show. So I had to zip over to my sister's, which is why we're late. So that's all my fault. But, well, I guess it's God's fault for not giving me better cell service. But anyway, we are here and we are ready to go. And Adam, we're going to start off looking at last week in the NLL while I get myself all settled down. How did we do last week, by the way?
We tied, which is not great for me. I'm still one behind, which means it all comes down to this weekend. But you know, that's for later in the show. And
remember, this week you get to pick first in every game.
So. Oh my, that's a lot of pressure. It's going to be an interesting weekend. But before we get to this coming weekend, this past weekend, Stamper. I mean. What can we say about Christian Del Bianco that he hasn't already done the season he's having? But it's been awesome to see Adam Charlambides and Keegan Ball really take charge there. I know we've talked about the defense before Vancouver. They're just looking great. I don't want to face them in the playoffs if I'm another team. And then in the other matchups, I was at the Albany game versus San Diego. Boy, what a finish that was. Huge win for Albany. They really seem to be this dark horse who might end up sneaking into the playoffs. And, the big question is going to be, is Christopher Origlieri ready for this game? He left in the fourth quarter last game. Looked like a lower body injury. The team has told me that he is day to day, not week to week, and they hope that he can make it. That might be some posturing, but we'll see. They definitely are going to need O'Rig if they want to beat Albany again this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Mike Poulin as their backup, and Poulin's been a great goalie. He was 2012 goalie of the year, won the championship in 2017 with Georgia, has not really played much. He was retired for a couple of years there, hasn't really played much since before the pandemic. So, and this year he's only played 56 minutes and 56 seconds. Including the time last week, right? So, I mean, Mike Poulin has been a great goalie. He's a great teammate, great mentor for Origlieri, but is he ready for a do or die, get in the playoffs, or maybe don't game for San Diego? That's huge news. So we'll see how that one works. But Albany certainly played very well. One of the segments in today's show, we're going to look at some of the possible playoff scenarios, including Albany, who we thought when they lost their 10th game were kind of dead in the water, sitting at 6-10. They actually have some pretty good scenarios for them to make the playoffs. So we're going to go through some of that. We're also going to talk about the MVP race. You mentioned Christian Del Bianco. Does he have enough on his resume this year to be in the MVP conversation. That's something we'll address later as well, because I checked with the National Lacrosse League. There is no prerequisite, no minimum number of games that you have to play in to be eligible for the postseason awards. So he could be the MVP. He could be the goalie of the year. I look at that. We're going to get into that, but I mean, Vancouver was 11 when they traded for Tristan Del Bianco. Now they're on the verge of clinching a home playoff game. That's a remarkable story. But I guess we should move on to some other games as well. Ottawa, obviously, the 8-goal game from Jeff Teat, just the 12th time anyone has ever scored 8 or more goals in the National Lacrosse League. Remarkable night for Teat.
I mean, he scored 40 goals in his last 9 games, Stamper. Yeah. Like, what are we talking about with this guy?
It's insane. Talking about the MVP conversation, eh?
Exactly. I mean, if he does that over a whole season, that's 80 goals. Like that's an NLL record, and he is just unstoppable. And it was a weekend really of the big time performers pretty much stepping up. Mitch Jones, Alex Simmons, Ty Kurtz with his sock trick, Keegan Ball, Charlene Beatties, Dane Smith with a huge game, now putting him in a position where he can break his own points record this weekend, and also likely his own assist record as well. So that was a great finish by Buffalo, by the way, against a Halifax team that looked very strong again. It's tough to face Buffalo in Bandit Land, as we continuously say, but they had a chance until the end there, and Buffalo really took advantage.
Yeah, the last 3 goals for the Bandits, and it wasn't just Dane Smith. Of course, it was also Josh Byrne, who is now, I've been talking a fair bit lately about Ryan Lanchbury and how he is on the verge of setting the non-Dane Smith assist record. Dane Smith, this year is putting up the 4th. He now has the 4 highest assist totals for a single season in NLL history. It's like Dane Smith and everybody else. Well, Ryan Lanchbury is 1 behind Ryan Lee's non-Dane record with 84, and Josh Byrne now, though, with a big couple of weeks, is sitting just back at 83 as well. So he is right in the mix, and also within range possibly of that points record. And then you look at another game on the docket, and Joe Rosatera, it's 13 assists in the last 2 games for Philadelphia. He has, I think it's 79 now. So he is actually within range of that Lee record. He's averaging about 6 assists a game. So he's right on target, 5 or so assists. So he's on target. But, I mean, will he be able to keep up with Lanchbury and Byrne? Probably not. I mean, so the only game that leaves us really is that Saskatchewan-Colorado game, which 11-6 kind of flatters Colorado. They were not in that game. They hit some close.
Yeah, they did inch close towards the end there, but Saskatchewan definitely dominating that game. Definitely another huge, big performance from Frank Scigliano, who, obviously I think needs to be in that goaltender of the year conversation. Saskatchewan needs to have these wins at the end here to really build up some steam for the postseason, because as we've talked about a couple weeks ago about those sleeper teams in the 6th, 7th, and 8th spots, who are going to be coming to challenge Saskatchewan in the number 2 seed. You need to be playing at your best as we head into the postseason.
Yeah, and I mean, Colorado still has a chance at the postseason. They're in a spot right now, but boy, they have not looked great. They're losing games by 5 goals every week lately. Literally 5 goals for 4 games in a row. So just not looking great for them. Obviously missing Zed Williams and Eli McLaughlin. But they just haven't seemed to have the urgency that you would think from that club, and it's tough. I mean, they're just, you get things start to spiral down. Now they have Dylan Ward, they have Robert Hopenwarren, Jeffrey Lee in the defense. They've got, they still have Ryan Lee and Will Malcolm up front, and Pat Coyle behind the bench. They still have the ingredients to go out and get a final win against Calgary and get into the playoffs. And that would pretty much do it. A win would pretty much put them in, but it sure hasn't looked like it the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I think, it's going to be interesting because Calgary has the game before against Las Vegas, which if they win that one, then that even creates more problems for Colorado, just depending on what happens with the rest of the teams around the league. There's some early matchups. On Friday, also Albany playing against San Diego, so they'll know a little bit more what needs to happen or how good they feel about getting into the postseason. But, I have a great nugget for you, and I wrote about this in my Lacrosse Culture Daily by the Numbers piece, Stamper. Love your thoughts on it. If Colorado misses the postseason this year, this will be the first time in the overall franchise's history, that includes before they moved to Colorado, that they've missed the playoffs in back-to-back years since 1996 and 1997 when they were the Baltimore Thunder.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. Now, one thing is there have been a lot of years where there were several years where there were like 9 teams and 8 would make the playoffs, or
right.
there were some years where a lot of teams made the playoffs, but there were
Right.
also a bunch of years they didn't, and Colorado wasn't, like, for the most part, I don't think, just sneaking in to playoffs. They've been a pretty
Right.
solid club. Now they did kind of sneak into the playoffs both of the years that they went to the finals recently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were first in the division one year, but tied with everybody, right? And then the one year they just got in and went on to the finals. But yeah, it's kind of stunning to see, and it seems like there are breakdowns kind of all over, and just
Mm-hmm.
it's odd to see, because they do have, but you look at the roster, and they have had injuries. They have some younger players who are struggling a bit. In some ways, kind of similar to Albany and the issues they've run into this year. Where you see some of the players making plays that you think, oh, that's a young player making that play.
Yeah.
They're going to learn from that, but right now, does the team have the margin of error to deal with? Do they have the leeway to get by with that?
Right. And so actually, just as a quick other point, because I knew that you and others might have a rebuttal to that nugget, which is that this is the first time since 2013 and 2014 that they could have a record of below 500. So that is, again, 10 years since that has happened. So, it's interesting times in Colorado, especially only 3 years now removed from a championship. And then also 2 years removed of another finals appearance. So it's going to be interesting to see what the future holds for them.
It is. Anything else you want to talk about from last week? Oh, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg has a question.
Absolutely. So that game I thought was amazing, the Albany game. Do you guys think that, honestly, Albany's overperformance last year has contributed? I mean, at the heart, they're still a young team. They had a lot of defensive struggles. But, I mean, was that peak early in the year just kind of, or last year, did it put them behind the 8 ball and set everybody's expectations that much higher, and we forget that we've got a bunch of second and third year players?
That's really interesting, because when we were doing our preseason predictions this year, one of the things I thought was, Albany looks really good. They played really well. And I thought, one of the things I thought was, you look through the history of professional sports, when teams make a huge rise one year, they usually regress a bit the next year. There isn't a continual up trajectory. When you make like, they went from 3 or 4 wins to 11 wins and to the NLL finals.
Yeah.
And I talked myself out. I thought, okay, don't pick them to do super well. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be in the mix, but don't expect them to improve even more. But they've got Dyson Williams, they've got Will Johansson, 2 of the toppers, Zach Masson coming in. Doug Jameson's probably going to play better, which he has. All these things. Alex Simmons back. It just looked like, what, maybe this is that rare occasion where they keep climbing. So I, even though I was consciously thinking about it, still fell for it, because I picked them to do pretty well this year. I don't want to go into exactly what I said before the season.
Well, I do think it is interesting, and Greg, it was a great question, because when I spoke to Coach Clark and a couple of the guys after this win, that was one of my questions is, what has changed? What is different during this winning stretch than the beginning of the season? And it really seems like simplification and not overthinking has been a huge part of this. Just going out, playing the game, trusting each other. I think we also saw a huge difference, the value of Colton Watkinson when he was out. And yes, that was, compounded by John Wagner and Jackson Ishimura also being out, but they've been out now for, this whole time since Colton Watkinson has been back. I think that it shows that his leadership and his defensive ability has really held things together. But they've adjusted well, considering they've needed to make defensive changes.
Yeah. Yeah, and they definitely are looking dangerous. And they had a bunch of close games as well. A handful of overtime losses. So I think it was maybe a little unrealistic, but I also think they're basically a playoff team. I mean, again, not to harp on it, but there was one missed illegal substitution call that cost them a game early in the season against Calgary, or they're sitting in a playoff spot right now.
Yeah.
So
at one point, sorry to jump in there, but at one point, Saskatchewan and Albany had the same number of 1-goal games, but it just showed the difference that Saskatchewan at that time, I think they were even first. And just those 1-goal games, and that's where I think, having the younger guys not being able to close it out. But with that being said, what about the Shigliano trade now, looking back at it? Do you think he's the difference? If Frank was playing in San Diego, we'd be talking about them being in the top?
I think we need to wait till Saskatchewan gets to the playoffs before we talk about Frank Shigliano.
Until they start playing in the playoffs?
Yeah, until Frank and the Saskatchewan gets into the postseason, or is in the postseason, but playing in the postseason, I should say. Let's see how much of a difference maker he is then. That's always been kind of the factor with Frank. So he's been excellent, deserving of a nomination and a finalist position, in my opinion, for goaltender of the year. But when the games matter, let's see how he steps up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough because Christopher Riglieri was very good last year. This year, he's kind of regressed a bit, which, again, tends to happen with young goalies. He was a big riser last year. The same tends to hold true of players often as teams I talked about. So, yeah, I mean, I think maybe, but I don't know. Saskatchewan obviously needed, Shigliano to step his game up when they got him, and he's played well. I mean, he's had some fantastic games this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Stamper? And this will be the last one. I know we've been going a little long in this segment, but it is interesting when we talk about goalies like Christopher Riglieri who haven't played their best this year. When I look at Brett Dobson, I see the same similar situation. Who do you feel between those two has been a little bit more disappointing than the other?
Wow. That's a really good question. I would have to say Brett Dobson because the expectations were so high coming in. Riglieri, when he was drafted, when he came into the NLL, was a young goalie, still had a couple of years of junior left. He was obviously a good young prospect, but I don't think there were a lot of people saying, oh, this guy's going to be a star goalie in the league for years. They were saying, oh, that's interesting. Let's see how it works out. Brett Dobson came in as a number 10 overall pick. 10 or 11, star in the making. Everyone looking at like, hey, how long? Not what is he going to be a star? Is he going to be a franchise goalie? But how long until he's a franchise goalie? And he was pretty quickly for them, right? When they had that super hot stretch last year, or the year before. So, so I think from that perspective, just because the expected ceiling was higher, I think you kind of expect Dobson's floor to be higher as well. And when he's struggled, and he's a young goalie in his mid-20s, right? And as much as more young goalies are playing these days, it's still the hardest position in the sport to get really consistent at.
Yeah.
So, I think it's for all of them. I mean, you look at Landon Kells and Thomas Kajzik is perfect, right? He's won both of his games. But if you're Saskatchewan, do you want Kajzik going in to start?
Yeah.
They probably feel okay. But I don't know if I want a guy who's played 2 games, started 2 games and has never played in the playoffs as my starter in the playoffs. And I'm a huge Kajzik fan. I'm a huge Landon Kells fan, but I wouldn't want him starting my playoff game right now. So that kind of ambled away from your question a bit. But yes, Dobson.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's been unfortunate for both teams, and look, now they're both in positions this weekend where they could be in the playoffs. They might not be in the playoffs. It's a big weekend for both of those goaltenders to really step up when their team needs them the most.
Is that what we're talking about when we come back from break? Is it the playoffs or is it the MVP race? What do you want to start?
It is going to be the MVP race, which is going to be, I think in the last couple of weeks, man, that race has gotten very exciting. So I can't wait to talk to you about that on the other side.
All right, we're going to go to a quick break on Inside the World of Box Lacrosse, and we will be right back. Don't you dare miss it.
That was a good one.
Oh, that's me bringing us in.
Yeah, I meant you.
Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse, ITWOBL, as we call it. That was one of those candid, embarrassing moments there. Hope you all enjoyed it, and glad that you are back for this section. We are now going to be talking about, as we alluded to at the end of that first section there, the MVP race, which has gotten so hot as this season has come, this regular season has come to a close. So Stamper, we can start with you. I mean, there's a handful of names here that we're going to be talking about, but who are you going for right now?
I don't know. I honestly, at this point, make a decision right now, I would, obviously, but it's, I think, pretty wide open. I think last year's a fairly wide open race as well. But I think, I mean, you look at the stats and you think, well, obviously Dane Smith and Josh Byrne for the first place team, they're doing fantastic. They have to be in the conversation, and they are, for sure.
Yes.
But you also look at results. I mean, there they are. You see Smith and Byrne with 129, 126 points. While we have this up, Joe Rositeris and Mitch Jones from Philadelphia, 120, 108. Connor Fields has 118 points. Ryan Lansbury, 110. They also have Ryan Smith and Thomas McCombie in the top 22 or so in the league. Keegan Ball and Adam Charlambides both up pretty high in the stats. But Jeff Teat is sitting there at 107. And there's a bit of a gap between him. If we can go to the Ottawa page, look at that.
Yeah.
That gap. 30 goals ahead of the next Black Bear in goals, 46 points ahead of the next Black Bear. That is astonishing.
Yeah.
To have that much of a gap. And that's why I don't think you have to look, as much as we've talked all year about Ottawa's offense struggling, Jeff Teat not being Jeff Teat the way he has been. I think right now, if you had to pick, he's probably the MVP. If they make the playoffs, right? Does they have to make the playoffs for him to win it? I don't know.
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, I'm a bit of a hardliner, more of a hardliner. I can have a little bit of flexibility on certain things like this, but if my team or if a team in question has a losing record, and they've had one really good player, I find it really hard to give them an award. But, in the case of the playoffs, that's kind of, for me, the marker of Ottawa has to get in for Jeff to really get my vote at least. But
you said you can have some flexibility, and if you're ever going to have flexibility, when is it going to be other than a guy leading by his team by 30 goals and 46 points and almost getting him into the playoffs?
Well, I will give you a great example that if there was not, and this would be my vote for MVP, if there was not a player like Connor Fields having the season that he's having, I would be more flexible to choose Jeff Teat over Dane Smith or Josh Byrne. However, it was great, and I'm really glad that Brendan McDaniels Rochester Nighthawks color commentator made a really great tweet, and it really makes the case for Connor Fields, especially compared to Smith and Byrne. Fields is in the top 10 Stamper in the NLL, not just among forwards. Top 10 in the NLL when it comes to points, goals, loose balls, power play, assists, and also, in those 4 categories. And so when you're in the top 10 in loose balls, and you're one of the best contributors on the power play, and you're scoring at a high rate and facilitating at a high rate, and you're having Rochester, who could be hosting a home playoff game for their first time in franchise history, having a 7-game win streak potentially to end the season. I mean, he gets a lot of help from Lanchbury Smith and the rest of the crew there, but individually having one of those seasons to remember. And actually, another nugget for you, if he collects 7-point Stamper and 10 loose balls in this weekend's game, which he has done before, he would be the first player in NLL history to have 125 plus points and 150 plus loose balls in a single season. So that is how rare Connor Fields' season is, and it's really just spectacular.
I got to jump in here, though. To be fair, Connor Fields, most of his rebounds are off of his missed shots off the plexiglass, so I don't know if his loose balls...
You think he's getting the Angel Reese rebounds?
But my big, the main reason I wanted to jump in here is we had this argument in our Discord the other day with the most valuable player. I don't know. I always felt like it's the guy, if you take him off the team is completely different. I feel like with Connor Fields, if you take him off, yes, the team is completely different, but they still have a lot of talent around him. The Bandits, it goes without saying, they are just, I think, the most talented team. Yep. I mean, especially when you look at the McKay, Frazier, the way they've been having, like, just everybody stepping up when they need to. I mean, so not having somebody in the playoffs, I guess, how is it that you're, or what is your baseline criteria for the MVP if it's not, you take that guy off the team and the team is non-existent?
Yeah, I mean, look, Jeff is in a very rare case here, and I think to Stamper's point about flexibility, with the season the second half of the season that Jeff Teat has been having, I think that, man, it's a great point that, we could be in a situation, because let's even say that Jeff Teat, he could score 7 goals this weekend. He could end up with a 60-goal season, and let's say Ottawa loses somehow. Yeah. And how could you not give him the MVP? So, I think that this year it is such an anomaly with both of those guys having such great years. And I do think that you are completely right that if you take Jeff Teat away, that team is, who knows where they are.
And Adam, I kind of agree with you about Fields, by the way. I know I was saying, hey, how is it not Teat at this point? But I think there's a very strong argument for Fields, especially if Ottawa misses the playoffs, because Rochester's in for the 3rd year in a row. And to me, the one big thing about Fields, I know there are some people, maybe one in particular, who were advocating Fields last year for the MVP, was adamant that Fields was the MVP. He was not the MVP last year. He just was not. He was great. He was great, but he was not. He shouldn't have been in the top 3 probably for the MVP. This year, he absolutely has to be in the top 3. The big thing to me about Connor Fields is he has changed so much about adapting to his teammates and not getting that mentality of, I have to shoot, I have to make this happen, that you could see last year that I think made it really tough for them at times. And this year, he's still getting the loose balls. He's scoring the points like crazy, but he's so much like everyone's involved. It's like Lanchbury, Smith, McConvey, everybody is just, Waters, and everybody are getting their chances. And Fields is being such a good facilitator. And he's been such a complete player this year. I think he's been substantially better than he was last year, even if the stats are not super dissimilar.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, and I'm just trying to look at it here too, is that if you look at the Ottawa Black Bears record, even despite Jeff Teat's amazing last 8 or 9 games that he's had, I mean, they are 5-3 in their last 8 games, whereas Rochester is 7 and it could be. Yeah,
but without Jeff Teat, they'd be like 2-5, 2-6.
Fair, but then I will also add the point which I was getting to, which is Jeff Teat had a very slow start to the season. I think it was like 33 points in the first 7 games, Well, if you look at their record,
it's awful, right?
Yeah, if you look at their record though of their first 7 games, they were 4-3, and so they actually were better when he wasn't doing well.
That's a juicy nugget. Yeah. And I will, to Greg's point, I will point out that, you look at Buffalo and they've got so much, right? They have so much going on. But if you take either, like, we've almost become inured to what Smith and Byrne are doing because they just keep doing it. Dane Smith he's got 99 assists. Like, how many of them are primary assists? It's over 60, right?
It was something like 76. It's like 80%.
Ridiculous. It's crazy. Like, he is. So you take Dane Smith off Buffalo, they're not sitting at 12-3 or 13-4, whatever they are. They're just not. Like, I know it looks like you could just take one of them off because the other one's there, but they've got that chemistry, and the two of them together, like, maybe they're co-MVP because we've never seen a pair of players do something like this.
I agree with Stamp 100% because either of those guys by themselves I don't think is as good, but together, I mean, we're really fortunate to be able to watch it. It's like one of those things that most people don't realize till it's over. But with the chemistry, they run their podcast, they do the show. They're amazing in the community up in Buffalo. Those, I consider myself lucky to be able to watch those guys, even though I'm not a big Buffalo fan. But no, I do at least appreciate it enough that I don't get nearly the hate Adam gets. We actually get a lot of thanks from the Buffalo fans, but that's more for when we're talking. But this next guy that you guys are talking about, Del Bianco, I mean, undefeated since he came back. How do you sort it any other way, really?
Honestly, I emailed the league and said, hey, just wanted to check, is there a limit? You have to play a certain number of games to be eligible for MVP or Goalie of the Year, whatever. And the answer is nope. And Del Bianco is on the ballots that are going out for nominations. So that means he's eligible, right? And that leaves it with us, which makes it really hard. I was honestly kind of hoping the league would be like, oh, you have to play this many games. And I'd be like, we're going to go with the same thing for our awards because we're figuring out our awards. And we're grappling with that question because Christian Del Bianco has been fantastic. He's leading the league with an .812 save percentage and has just been dynamite in those 5 wins. I mean, they beat Albany, 10-4. And that's an Albany team that was playing really well and just couldn't get it. I mean, I know Alex Simmons was first game back from an injury and stuff, but he's been playing so well. And like I mentioned before, they were in 11th place when they traded for him. They've won 5 straight, and they can clinch a home playoff game. That is a remarkable run. Like, that's incredible. What a rise.
Yeah, I mean, it really is amazing how much one guy can change an entire team. And I mean, this is why he won the MVP and goaltender of the year only 2 years ago, because he does so much more than, and there was a great quote that I got from Matt Beers. It was that it wasn't just the fact that he was, giving confidence to the defense. It was the fact that when he's getting the ball up the floor, he's allowing the offense to have at least 5 to 7 seconds more in their half because he's able to get it up so quick. And that allows the offense to get in a flow, get in a rhythm, run their plays. And that just gives them so much confidence. It also allows the defense to not be so exhausted by having to, whether it's, giving up rebounds or other things like that. It really has transformed the entire team.
So do we have a definitive yes or no as to whether Del Bianco is in the conversation for our MVP at IL Indoor and for the league MVP? Should he get people's votes?
I think so. I also think that he's the best transition goalie I've ever watched. I mean, granted, I don't have the experience of watching for years, but the way
Patty O'Toole was really good.
Yes,
but I think Del Bianco is the best.
Yeah, just the way he throws those lasers and gets everybody. Oh, sorry, our dogs are going nuts. Bella just let him out of the crate. So,
by the way, my dog is lying quite quietly at my feet. She's being great.
Yeah, you just got Lucy's attention. She raised her head up under the table. But that is a good question, Stamper. Man, I don't know. I don't want to keep being a stickler today, but I don't know. Let's see how he plays this weekend against Philadelphia. At this moment, I don't know that I could give him the vote for MVP. I would put him on my ballot and give him a vote, but I don't know that I would give him the number one.
In a top 3 or in a top 5?
He would be my third after Teat and Fields.
Okay. I'm not nearly that. My thoughts have not coalesced that clearly. I'm still waffling. I honestly kind of lean towards Fields, Teat Fields, Del Bianco. Yeah. And I just feel like it's ridiculous to not have Dane Smith or Josh Byrne in the among the finalists. If you do that, they're on my ballot. But like, how do you not? But then all the things we've talked about, right? I mean, it's a year of incredible performances, and and that's, we haven't even talked about like Joe Resetarits, Mitch Jones in Philadelphia. Jones kind of, I think, actually cost himself with that fight that you like so much, because he only got one. He didn't get any points in that game, so that bumps him down some. But is that another way of showing your value? Because that was huge for them. But they have a minuscule chance of getting in the playoffs. I don't see somebody from Philadelphia, given what everyone else is doing, as a part of that conversation. So
So it is an interesting point, though, because this weekend, and I do think that, not to give away my future pick in the last segment, but I do think that Philadelphia is going to give Vancouver a much harder time than people think this weekend. And I think that I know Mitch Jones has, he's from Vancouver. He's already in town. He's been there. He's settling in. He's going to be rested and ready to go in front of his family and friends. He's actually averaged, Stamper, in the 2 games he's played against the Warriors since the trade, he's averaged 10 points a game against Vancouver.
Wow.
So he had big games.
You put out a tweet saying, Vancouver native Mitch Jones will be a UFA this year.
Yeah.
Going to Vancouver. Was that a hint that you think they might sign him for next year?
I think
yes, because it's so much more interesting.
Well, I think that the Vancouver offseason is going to be very interesting. I think that they have their eyes on a ton of people. As we know, British Columbia, one of the hottest hotbeds for box lacrosse talent in the world. There are so many guys who would love to come home that are playing for other teams. I think that they're going to have a very busy offseason. They're going to do whatever they have to persuade guys. Is Mitch Jones part of that?
Wow, that's a long way of not answering this question.
I was just going to say, you'd be a great politician, Adam. Now,
is Mitch Jones part of that? I don't know. I don't know that that is in the cards. I know he loves Philadelphia, but I think that there's a lot of questions right now. Is what does the future hold for Philadelphia and how things are going to look long term, and for more veteran guys who are looking to win now and the way that Vancouver is playing now, I imagine that Mitch is going to spend a lot of time thinking about coming home, doing what Del Bianco has done, and so many of these guys saying, this is my final stop. I'm going to be here. I'm going to do what I need to do in the community, and then I'm going to go off into the sunset.
Has he been on morning shoot around? Are they going to have – they can't do that, right? There's no way they could have him on morning shoot around right before he plays Vancouver.
That would be
awesome.
Amazing. I should text Tino Farah and have them set that up if they have.
Text him too. Yeah. Like, get Jonesy in there. Although it might be a bit late. Although my understanding from watching them, seeing their tweets is they sometimes set up the guests pretty late. So maybe.
Now, this was kind of
anything else, Greg?
Yeah, Adam brought up the point of how dangerous Philadelphia is. I was going to ask you guys, is there anything more dangerous than guys that are playing for their jobs? Because it's not necessarily the playoff, but you've got a lot of, the defense there obviously has had some issues. And when you're playing these teams, I mean, everybody's playing for a spot in this game.
Yeah. I mean, Philadelphia right now they're playing for pride. They're playing just as they have the last couple weekends to say, these are my brothers. I'm not going to give up for these guys in that locker room on that bench. There are, and I think I had put out a tweet because Joe Resetarits, also an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. This could be the last game that we see this iteration of the Wings play together. There's a lot of moves that could be made. Those guys that were brought in, I know Stamper and I've talked about it previously. We don't know how long they probably will go back to the teams that they were on before the trade. So, I think that if they're thinking about it from the standpoint of this is the last time that this group of guys is going to play a game together, I think that is a scary proposition for a Vancouver team who needs a win to host a playoff game.
I don't think Vancouver's afraid of anybody right now.
That's true.
They're playing awfully well.
And they also could have, as I've heard from the Warriors, might end up having their best attendance in Rogers Arena since they moved there for the 2018-2019 season. It's over 10,000 of now, but still a couple of days left. And with the Canucks out of the playoffs and their season ending, I think that this is the time for Vancouver to rally around the Warriors and say, we're going to show up in droves. We're going to push you over the line to get you that home playoff game. And then they're all going to show up the next weekend in even bigger numbers, which is amazing because if that happens, Stamper, as I've said, I will be at that game. And I cannot wait to see a full Rogers Arena for an NLL lacrosse game.
My guess is if that happens, if they are hosting a game, you're out there, that's going to bring another 1,000 people in just who want to be around as part of the Levi bump.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I was, we joke about me in Buffalo. When I announced that I was coming up to Buffalo for that game, it got a very positive reaction. Someone asked, can we be best friends? Someone was like, oh my God, I need to buy you some beers. And then it got I think 130 likes on that post, and I wasn't expecting it. So I clearly need to be asking the Buffalo Bandits for a table for an autograph signing.
Clearly. And I think you might need one in Vancouver as well. We have veered away from the MVP conversation. We've started talking about playoff stuff, which is going to be the focus of the next section. And we'll be back with it shortly here on Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. And we'll
Hello, everybody. And yes, I did not forget the cue this time around. Adam Levy, Steven Stamp, Greg Beecher, Charity Beecher in the background, helping us to run this awesome show inside the world of box lacrosse. And we are now at this third section of the show, what could happen, meaning what are the scenarios, Stamper, that could get each of these teams that are still eligible to make the playoffs into the postseason? 7 teams vying for 3 spots. This is exactly what every NLL fan dreams of.
Yeah, and there are 256 possible scenarios for the final 8 games of the season. And, everyone down to Philadelphia on that list has the potential. Again, Philly's chances are very small, less than 1% of the scenarios see them make the playoffs. One thing I think to keep in mind as you're looking at those, and and Graham Parrow, this is Graham Parrow's NLLstats.com site, and he figures out the percentages of the scenarios, possible scenarios for all the games among the 256, or the 1,000 was the week before, and it says, okay, this is the percentage for each team to make it based on how many of those scenarios are in their favor. That doesn't factor in things like Calgary's likelihood to make it. They're playing the last place team in the league. That has to give them an edge, right? A team that's lost 13 games. You have to think of that. So it's not as cut and dried as it looks. But the one thing we all thought we're going to look at an example of how crazy this whole playoff race is that the Albany Firewolves, who last week looked like they were done. They fell to 6-10 with that loss to Vancouver. And we all thought 10 losses, you're out. It's over. They're going to be a bunch of 9-win teams. But we have this up, and we are going to show you exactly how Albany can make the playoffs. It starts with a win, Charity, of Albany over San Diego, of course.
Yeah.
They have to do that. They lose that, they are out. That's done. And then they need some other things to happen. The big one for them that would really make things simpler is Georgia loses to Buffalo. I don't think anybody would be surprised about that. Georgia's good, but Buffalo, top team in the league, Buffalo wins there. If those two things happen, 2 other single results or a couple of results, one other single result would mean Albany is in the playoffs. And it is not exactly a shocker if it happens either. The second place Saskatchewan Rush would have to beat Ottawa. Those 3 things happen, Albany is in the playoffs because of the tiebreakers. Regardless of what happens in all those other games, Albany is in the playoffs. That you would have to think that the biggest question there is, can they beat San Diego a second straight week? Origlieri's availability is a huge factor, but that's the biggest question. Like Buffalo and Saskatchewan, even having clinched, they'd still be favorites in those games, right? Albany has a really direct and realistic route to the playoffs.
Yeah, and it is interesting just readjusting my camera here. We're going to be having some contractors look at the house in a few moments. This is the beauty of live webcasting. But yeah, Albany, it will be very interesting. They are a team that is looking really hot right now. I think that teams, when we talk about teams that have the momentum and things like that, I know that San Diego and Coach Merrill was telling me about the frustration for San Diego over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Georgia, the big question also versus Buffalo is, how many of those guys in Buffalo are going to play full games and are going to be giving it their all? They have nothing to play for. They've already clinched the number 1 seed throughout. And so so much rests on that game. And Georgia is going to be giving it their all because they want to make it into the postseason. So I think a lot rests on that. Very exciting, I think, and the schedule makers kind of got lucky with this one, knowing that this San Diego versus Albany game is on Friday. So that will resolve certain things for Saturday. And on Saturday, you're looking at some really key games. The Colorado one, I think, is really interesting, Stamper. So take us through kind of some of those scenarios.
That's the crazy thing. Do we have some of them already pulled up, Charity and Greg, that we've played out, like how they could work out? Because the crazy thing, Colorado, Calgary, with them both sitting at 8-9 right now. Or sorry, Calgary at 8-8, Colorado at 8-9. You think, okay, that obviously is going to have a huge factor. That's going to affect everybody, right? There are several scenarios where that game is absolutely meaningless. Either they're already both in the playoffs. If Calgary Calgary wins on Friday against Las Vegas, and then some other things happen, like Albany loses to San Diego, say.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, Colorado is in a pretty good spot. If some other teams lose, say, let's say Ottawa loses, and Georgia loses, Colorado's in the playoffs, and they don't even have to win. So put a Calgary win at the bottom. Colorado loses.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Then they fall out. Okay, so there's so many, but there are other scenarios. I've spent tons of time on this thing.
Yeah.
And Colorado can make it without winning that game, which is wild.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I'm just looking here at the NLL's breakdown of their scenarios, which they found. And so Colorado can clinch a playoff berth with a win and one of the following: a Calgary win versus Las Vegas, a Georgia loss versus Buffalo, or a San Diego loss versus Albany, or an Albany loss versus Saskatchewan. So there's multiple paths for them that can help them get some help. But, in the case of winning a game, and I know you were just talking about scenarios which they don't have to win, but in the case of winning a game, there's multiple scenarios in which they can find their way into the postseason.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think so much can happen. And I mean, what's Philadelphia do? Let's clear them. And does it show? Do you have it up for Philly what they have to do? It's a lot, right?
It was
they have to win.
It was so much. I remember when Graham Perro had listed it out online, and it was just like this laundry list. For the NLL, they say they can clinch a playoff berth with a win versus Vancouver. They need Calgary to lose both games, and they need Albany to lose versus San Diego, and they need Georgia to lose versus Buffalo, and they need Ottawa to lose versus Saskatchewan. Now, a lot of those games, you could realistically see a lot of that help getting done. I think one of the biggest hurdles there, as we talked about earlier in that highly contested game, is, does Philadelphia beat Vancouver? But, knowing that, all these teams can control their own destiny. And with Philadelphia knowing they have to win in order to at least give them a chance to be in the postseason, I think that is huge for them. Although I will say that they will have some of those results by the end of Friday to know. So if Calgary beats Las Vegas, let's say, we know that they're not going to be in the postseason.
Yeah. No, and every one of those could happen. Right?
Yep.
Every one of those games, it's not like a super crazy scenario. I think probably the biggest hurdle I would say is, a Las Vegas team that's only won 4 games beating a Calgary team that has Nick Rose now leading all starting goalies, players who qualify for the save percentage championship. Because there is you do have to play like 40% or whatever to be considered a starting goalie. But Nick Rose is also
weird that doesn't apply for the MVP and goaltender of the year ballots. But anyway, that's
it's so tricky. But I don't know if that's an official thing. That's on Graham's site. Actually, I'm just going by.
Okay, there we go.
Who knows? Maybe it's for something. I don't know. Anyway, but that to me seems like the big hurdle is, does Las Vegas beat a Calgary team that is playing well and really needs this one as well? But I mean, Philadelphia, it's not out of it. We saw last year Rochester had, by the same metric, had a 3% chance to make the playoffs, and they made it by winning a couple of games. So anything can happen, I guess, is the big takeaway. And so who knows? I mean, it could be so many combinations. We could see Vancouver hosting a playoff game. We could see Rochester hosting a playoff game. I think we could see Vancouver and Rochester hosting playoff games. Can we? Or is Halifax?
Yeah,
Halifax loses.
That's a good point. And so really people need to be watching all of those Friday night games, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Halifax versus Toronto. Because if Halifax loses and Vancouver and Rochester both win, I believe that you would have Rochester and Vancouver both hosting playoff games, Halifax in the 5 seed. So I mean, it's very interesting. And then, of course, the San Diego Albany game later, and then you've got that Vegas versus Calgary game going on at the same time, 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time. So, I mean, really, if there's a way that you can watch every game, and you know, what a time for NLL Plus to introduce that multi-view feature, because you're going to be
like the multi-view.
It doesn't actually work for us Americans. Stamper, you can watch it, but we cannot see it. Sorry. So it's cool for you Canadians. You guys finally have something over us on that. But yeah, it does not work right for us. I tried it.
Something over you?
Well, we have to pay NLL Stats. We have to pay ESPN, and because we watch it through ESPN Plus, that happened. That's what I mean. Because for years you guys couldn't get the ESPN Plus, and now the NLL is definitely. That NLL being able to watch the multi-view, which is what I do anyways with just multiple computers, everybody else gets to do. So that's what I was getting at with you guys finally have something over, which really blew my mind that being the home of the sport, we had such better viewing options for it.
I know. I'll tell you, I had it on. I have it open as one of the windows, one of the tabs in my viewer window, and I'll kind of go back to it to check things, but I can't watch all the games. Like that can't be my main viewer because it's too much happening at once. I like to get stuck into a game, and I just can't sit there and watch with 4 games in one rectangle on the screen. But I love having it open to go back and check, and you can see what's going on, and you can go like, oh my goodness, Georgia just made this a game against Philadelphia. Let's go see what's happening there. You know, so that's pretty awesome. So that's my view.
The dream, and this is the last point on this before we get to our last section, the humiliate the host portion of things. But I think that the dream would be to have like an NFL red zone type thing for the National Lacrosse League, where you get a live look at games and moments that are happening around the NLL. And, you know, it looks like with the progress that NLL Plus is making, you know, maybe that is something that happens in the future. So
that's a pretty good first step towards that.
Exactly. But that is going to do it. And you know, each of and every one of those playoff games is going to have major implications for everybody. So whether you're watching on ESPN Plus, NLL Plus, TSM Plus, or wherever you're watching your games, you're going to want to be glued to your screens. So Stamper, it is that time, unfortunately, for us, although there's a lot on the line between the two of us for Humiliate the Host. So we will talk to you guys on the other side as we make our picks for this weekend.
Yeah, my bad. All of a sudden I went that main show, and I had no idea why he didn't show up, because that was weird. But, and then I have to readjust Charity. Adam all of a sudden disappeared.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Friends, to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. We are going to make our picks for the final week of the regular season. Then the playoffs get going. I'm going to be watching actually from afar. I am wearing my Nova Scotia Privateers jersey because I am hopping on a plane Sunday to go to Prague to run a team for the Alice Robeski, for the E-Box and Shoebox. And the Nova Scotia Privateers are the 2-time defending champions. Thanks largely to Zach Kerrigan, but what a cast they have. Terrific teams, like a really good team. He has been the star, but they are a terrific team playing together. But right now, we're looking at the NLL picks for the final week of the season. Adam has contractors here, so he might be popping in and out, which could give me an edge as I try to hold on to my 1-game lead in our head-to-head matchup. And, we start with Halifax or Toronto, and you look at Toronto at 5-11, you think, oh, easy one for Halifax, right? But let me point something out that I was looking at. Toronto lost their first 2 games of the season by 6 and 11 goals. They were bad. They did not play well. Things were not going well. They've lost 9 games since. They've lost those games by one goal, by 2 goals, 1 in empty netter, by one in overtime, by 5, by 1 in overtime, and by 2. They've lost 9 games being outscored by 11 goals on 8 of them. They are a good team. They are competitive, and I don't think it's easy. I think Toronto is going to win one of their games this weekend at least, and I don't know which one. It's hard. It's tricky. I feel like the better chance is in the first game of the weekend. So I'm going to pick Toronto to win this game, and we'll see, right? You're muted right now, Adam.
That was the perfect amount of time for an explanation for me to move into another room. So for me, and that was, I love Nuggets, and I'm very happy you broke it down that way. However, I'm not going to overthink it, and I'm just going to say that Halifax does pull this one out. Although, kind of like what you were alluding to, and also what we talked about with all these teams that, don't have a lot to play for, those can be the most dangerous teams sometimes. And I am picking Halifax, though, for this one.
Yeah, it does feel kind of crazy for me picking against Halifax. I looked at all that and I thought Toronto's going to win a game this weekend. They're good. Josh Stallwick's been fantastic. I think they're good. They're going to win a game. I don't know which one. And maybe they don't, but I figured I'd go with the first one. And then I think about that and I'm like, really? You think Halifax is going to lose this game? No, I don't, but I don't think Toronto's going to lose it. So, and we don't have ties, so we got to do something. The next game, Calgary and Las Vegas, I think is probably what I'm not going to overthink this one. Calgary desperately needs this win. Las Vegas has only won 4 games. I've got to go with Calgary. Nick Rose, Jesse King, Curtis Dixon. I just had to go check out Inside Lacrosse, IL Indoor. My musings this week were about the sustained greatness of Curtis Dixon, who may be having his best season, his best all-around season as a 36-year-old. He's been fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, it's been amazing to see some of the years that these guys have been having this season. You know what, Stamper? What I'm going to do, I'm just going
take everything opposite to me just so you get a chance to pass me?
Well, I'm going to make it very interesting because I'm just going to give you all of my picks right now, and then I'm going to have to head out, and then okay. I'm not even going to see what you pick, so who knows what happens. I am going
I'm picking all the same as you so that you can't beat me is what I'm doing.
Let's hope that Halifax wins then. So I'm going Calgary on this one.
Okay.
Interesting little kind of anecdote here. So I'm going to go I am going to go Albany with this one. But I spoke to Coach Patrick Merrill earlier this week, and he had joked that he had saw when I had tweeted out my hot take that the Albany Firewolves were going to make the playoffs, and he knows that in order for them to do that, they have to beat San Diego. And he was like, "Oh, okay, well, we see it. We've got it on our bulletin board." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's good." And but as I've always said on this program, for me, if I see a story out there and Albany with that bounce back, being able to make the postseason, I'll ride a good story any day, and I think Albany takes that one. In the next game, I got Rochester over Toronto. I think Rochester keeps rolling. So sorry, Toronto Rock fans, I'm going to pick against you twice this weekend. The next game, oh man, this is going to be so tough. I think, you know what? I'll go Georgia. I'll just say it. I'll go Georgia. Okay. You know what? That's just an off the whim pick. It's exciting to not have put myself on a time crunch and just kick off the gut. But and then looking at that Vancouver versus Philadelphia game, I think Vancouver they're just like they look too good right now, one of the hottest teams in the league. I think that while Philly is going to challenge them, and I think that is going to be one of the games of the week, I think Vancouver does pull it out thanks to Christian Del Bianco and that offense that has been clicking. And then I think that Calgary wins again against Colorado. And then I am picking Saskatchewan. Am I picking Saskatchewan? Oh, I don't know about that one. I am picking. That game is in Saskatchewan or no?
It is.
It is in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
We've already locked up the number 2 seed.
Has Ottawa played there? Have they adjusted to that green turf yet?
No, I don't think. I'm not sure that they have.
Not that anyone ever fully adjusts to it.
Right. I think that for the scenarios for Ottawa to get in, I think they will have been and so if I have Georgia winning, I think they would have been eliminated at that point, right? With Albany and those teams getting in. Something like that.
Yeah, I've memorized all 256 scenarios.
I'm going to go Saskatchewan on this one. And with that, I am very nervous about my picks. And also, if I get all 8 of these right, then this is my new method, Stamper. I'm giving.
Right? Have the contractors coming and just fly through them. I am not, for the record, going to just pick the same as you on all of them. I am going to pick what I think, but some of them are going to be the same. Also, just for the record, every time you say verse instead of verses, a little bit of me dies.
That's why that is really sad. I hope I can leave on a more positive note. Sure. Amazing show, Charity. Thank you guys so much again, as always, and we'll talk next week. Playoff.
We'll wrap it up, and we will talk from. I'll be from Prague, and we'll figure out how the heck I'm going to do that when I get there. So, see you, Adam. Good luck with the contractors. We actually have a bunch of stuff going to be happening at our place as well, because we are, as I mentioned, moving in with my mother to take care of her. She's a bit older, has dementia. Well, she's 92. She's not a bit older, and so we're moving in there. So we're in the process of getting our house ready to sell. There's a lot going on, and my wife Carrie is finishing up her final weeks of nursing school. She actually had just finished an exam. She literally just texted me that she's walking up from the school. So call her before I come to get her. And there is a lot going on. Hey, there's Greg loading about like the brazen head of Friar Bacon. Sorry, that's a Robertson Davies reference. Okay, so where am I? I have to pick starting with Calgary.
Oh, no, I already you're Calgary. Albany, San Diego.
Albany, San Diego. I'm going to take Albany as well. I just think they're playing really well. And I think the Origlieri situation is tough because he looked like he was in a lot of pain last week. Day to day means that they're just not sure.
I was sitting behind him when he got injured, and all these guys are tough guys, but you could see the pain on his face. It was it was a rough play to watch. You don't ever want to see anybody get hurt, no matter what team they're playing for, obviously.
Yeah. So even if he can play, is he 100%? Do they go with Poulin and have Origlieri as the backup? What's their? So I think with those question marks, I've got to go with Albany. And like Adam said, it does make for a good story. Toronto at Rochester. I said the Rock are going to win one. I think they could win both, but I'm not going to take them to. I'll take Rochester.
I thought we weren't just picking all of Adam's picks.
I'm not. You just wait. Just relax, Greg. But it's funny because when teams will. I remember doing this when teams would have play a home and home on a weekend. You used to see that relatively often, right, in the NLL. And I'd be like, they're going to split. So I'll take, like, if Toronto Rochester were playing Friday, Saturday, or whatever, I'd take one of them Friday and the other Saturday, and I'd always get them reversed, right? So I think what that means is that most likely Halifax will beat Toronto, and Toronto will beat Rochester, because I picked it this way. But this is what I'm going with. Buffalo and Georgia. I think that's an interesting pick, taking Georgia. I just think Buffalo's they're so good, and they're going to be pretty relaxed. And I think
Georgia's been on a bit of a slide lately, really, though. I mean, the end of the season has not been good for them. Buffalo's looking good.
Consistency is not Georgia's thing, though, the last couple of years, right? So they're up and down. That means they've played some good games lately, but they have been a bit down. Maybe they're due for an up. So I think it's not a bad pick, taking Georgia. But I did say I wasn't going to pick. Now, to be fair, I did say I wasn't going to pick all the same picks as Adam, just to be to make sure the one game you couldn't pass me. But that doesn't mean I'm not necessarily going to pick them all because I'm making this up as I go. But I am going to take Buffalo. Grudgingly, because I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Philadelphia and Vancouver. I think that's tough because you got a couple of teams that have played some games in a row. And one of the things that Marty O'Neill was pointing out to me is that teams tend not to win a bunch of games in a row. I mean, it's difficult every week to win. So if a team is winning, you're almost better off picking them to lose. But these are both teams that have come in winning some games. And I think I'm going to have to go with Vancouver. Del Bianco's playing so well. Keegan Ball has been fantastic lately. And their defense, here's an interesting one quickly that where is this? I pulled up, I went through because I'm a massive stats geek and just a nerd in general. I went through and tracked the number of caused turnovers awarded per game by arena. So in teams' home games, how many caused turnovers are awarded? So you look at Vancouver, you think, oh man, they're the best defense in the league. They've given up the fewest goals. They were right up there for fewest goals before Del Bianco got there. Great defense, right? But not a lot of them have a lot of caused turnovers. So you think, is it just a team thing? Ryan Delks has a bunch, but some of the other guys don't. And then you look at this. So Albany, if you want to win the Defensive Player of the Year, don't play for Albany or Vancouver because Albany and Vancouver have the fewest caused turnovers awarded for both teams combined in their home rinks. Albany's had 3 games where they had only 7 caused turnovers awarded between the two teams. They average 14 in games in Albany, the teams. Vancouver averages 14.3, Philadelphia 15. At the other end of the scale, Saskatchewan 21.3. That's 50% more than Albany and Vancouver. Toronto 20.6. So I think Vancouver's defense is, and they're just not looking maybe quite statistically like they could because they just don't get
it's such a subjective call. It's up to that whoever's sitting there watching it. You never know. It is tough. I love you've been talking about it, but now to back it up with the numbers, we're gonna have to make a small social media post about that because that is huge though when you're talking about especially like Johansson going for essentially his rookie year playing like this, and now his stats can be that skewed by it. That is a very that is true. But I do have to say, Tan in the chats is letting us know that in real life, he says the green is not nearly as harsh on your eyes. You don't need sunglasses, I think. Okay. But he says it's the
on the screen. It's awful.
Yes, he said it's the lighting and because they crank the greens up at the SaskTel. Okay. So I'll give it to him because OJ. That was the first thing OJ said when he got there. We were like, "How bright is that green?" He's like, "It's actually way different in real life." I was like, "Okay, we're gonna have to."
What about Calgary?
Calgary
anybody want to weigh in on Calgary? Because Calgary, the thing about their turf, the teal isn't as obnoxiously bright at you in the broadcasts. You can't see the ball. But literally, you watch a replay and you have no idea where the ball is until it crosses over the crease line, right? And then there's the dark blue and you can see it. I hate that. Anyway,
OJ sits plexiglass level, so he doesn't look down at it like that because that's what he said. He goes, "I have no idea what you guys are talking about," and I was like, "Oh wait, because you sit floor level, so you're looking straight. You see the ball just like everybody else does. You're looking through the plexiglass. Okay. You're not looking down at the plexiglass." So I was like, "Okay, I can understand that." But no, I would rather. As painful as it is to say, I'd rather watch a rush game because it is easier to keep track of the ball. I'll put my sunglasses on. I lose it a lot with the Roughnecks, and we're guys that follow lacrosse and understand it. So imagine when you get a new fan coming to watch you who doesn't understand the play. That is pretty brutal.
I go back to my argument that all players should have to play, if we're going to use white balls, with black. The stick, the mesh, and the shooters in the head should all be black. And then you see the white ball. It's a massive difference. Colorado and Calgary, speaking of the teal turf, and I just, again, teams that lose a bunch of games in a row generally don't just keep losing, but man, Colorado, it just doesn't seem to be working out for them. They've lost by 5 goals per game for multiple games in a row. Calgary is just, Calgary is looking pretty good. I'm going to go with Calgary.
Plus, I mean, they really didn't score till the final 2 minutes. They had, 1 goal up to the final 2 minutes of the game. So, that was quite the game to watch. I watched it and was like, what is going on with their offense? They just didn't – it was rough.
Yeah. And, I mean, again, I pointed out like Colorado's got a lot of great things on that club. They could bounce back and have a great game, but it's just hard to have watched them for the last 4 or 5 weeks and think they're going to come out and win that game. Ottawa and Saskatchewan. I mean, you know what? It's interesting that Adam brought up all those points about, you know, even when he wasn't playing well, Ottawa was playing okay. When he's been doing great, they're not doing fantastic, like not more substantially better. Like, I think he's going to have another big weekend. Oh, maybe not. Saskatchewan's D is awfully good. They do, as we just talked about, there are more cause turnovers awarded in Saskatchewan than anywhere else in the league, which makes you think, okay, Matt Hossick's been great, Jake Boudreau, all those guys have been great. Does that affect how you feel about their season? It makes me wonder, right? But I then you watch them and you're like, no, Matt Hossick's been terrific. But, you know, what do the numbers mean? Anyway, I'm going to go Saskatchewan.
Going with the Rush on that one. I was actually just
I am.
Yeah. Have they played yet this year? They have not.
No.
Uh-huh.
No. Not many teams play each other twice, right? With the new everyone playing everyone. You got 13 games and then there's only 5 others. You know, so you're only playing 5 teams multiple times out of the other 13.
So how do you what do you think about that so far?
I like it. Yeah, I mean, I like everyone playing everyone every year. The one thing I know it does mean for some of the rivalries, you know, like Saskatchewan Calgary, the Battle of the Prairies, or Saskatchewan Colorado, or Toronto Rochester, all these rivalries, they often only see each other once a year. So which means if that happens, that there are going to be fans who don't see it. Like if you're a Buffalo fan, you might not see Rochester or Toronto come to Buffalo for 2 years, right? For a full year, you might not see them until the next year, which is tough. Now they can, you know, that's maybe a bad example because if you're in Buffalo, just drive to Toronto or Rochester. That's not hard, right? But I mean, Calgary to Saskatchewan's a lot further to go. People still do it because they're great fans, but I think overall it's good. I like the balanced schedule. I like the unified standings right now. I think it does make things really tight at the end. It certainly seems to up the emphasis on every game when you look back at like every scenario you look at with teams, like are they going to make the playoffs? You can look back for basically every team that is battling for their lives for playoff spot right now and see a game in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season that if something had gone differently, their fortunes would be very different, like a little thing. So, you know, either they'd be, you know, in a better position like Albany we talked about, or there's some that, you know, maybe got a bit of a break or had something go their way that at the time you thought, oh, interesting, but didn't realize how important it would be in giving them a chance at this point of the season.
Yeah. And I mean, you understand why they did it because you only had so many teams out west. They knew Panther City was folding. It wasn't going to quite work. And the one advantage I would say is you will give some of these teams a chance to see some teams that they didn't play. So, like, if a team gets to play Buffalo, you're going to have people in any arena buy tickets just for a chance to watch Dane Smith and Lyle Thompson. Like, there's certain guys that do draw people. But like you said, when they're only playing one game home or away, you don't even necessarily get to see that guy for 2 years. So, I didn't really think of it from that perspective when I thought it was a great idea because I was like, this is cool. Everybody gets to go. But because of the condensed schedule, it's a short season. It's tough.
There's no perfect solution, right? And I think this is a pretty good one. Yeah, to be honest.
No, I'm a big fan of it. I mean, we still get to play Buffalo frequently, it seems. The rivalry, and that is one nice thing about being in upstate New York is we're within 5 hours drive of 3 lacrosse teams. They pulled the Riptide up to Ottawa, which actually brought them closer to me. I live closer to Ottawa than I do to New York City, so now I mean, really, we're 4 teams within 5 teams because you got Trout. Yeah, I'm very lucky where I live.
Ottawa's my closest NLL team now.
Aha.
Yeah, we live east of Peterborough. So
the whole 45 minutes for us is good. So next week though, we're definitely going to need to cover some awards. We're going to have to start the playoff picks. Boy,
next week's going to be tricky. We haven't even talked about this, but
congratulations. Tell everybody about, because a lot of our fans won't necessarily know what the Alice Herbeski is.
Sure. The Ales Trubetsky is a invitational tournament in Radotin, which is part of Prague, Czech Republic. This is the 30th anniversary of this tournament. Ales Trubetsky was a young lacrosse player in Czech Republic who was tragically killed in an accident, and they named the tournament after him. And this is now the 30th edition. It's a fantastic tournament. I was looking through the rosters to see some of the players that are coming back. There's the Czech, the LCC Custodes, the home team, is always great. Nova Scotia Privateers have won the last two. Some of the players that are, Jeff Shatler played a couple of years ago in this tournament. Sean Evans has played the last couple of years. He's playing again this year. There's some great players. There's some guys that you've heard of from before, and they're guys you will hear of, guys that are on their way up. There's all kinds of teams from North America. There's teams from a whole bunch of European nations. Usually teams from Finland, Sweden, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Slovakia, a bunch from Czech Republic, like a few teams, England, Scotland.
It's the only thing that's ever made me want to go to Europe, honestly. I've never had the desire. Like, everybody's always like, oh, Europe is so fancy, it's so cool. I mean, the architecture has an appeal to me, but I can see most of that on camera and pictures. It's not as good, but the since I found box lacrosse and have figured that out, watching that tournament last year when you went was the first time I really watched it. Like, I got into watching it. I was grabbing some highlights. You were like, you got to watch this game. You got to see this. And I was checking it out, and boy, does that, just the way it's all set up. It's right in the town. It's such a cool little niche too, because it's not a sport you would expect to see somewhere like that. And no, I am a huge fan.
It's a blast. It is right in a neighborhood. Like, it's this little outdoor rink. They do have covers over the stands, but it's amazing that it's there's streets on either side. There's buildings all around it. There's neighborhoods. Neighbors will sit on their balconies and watch the games. It is a gathering of the lacrosse community, the global community, and it is so much fun. The camaraderie. I mean, you go there and you see all these people that you get to see every year. Now we see some of them at other events as well, but there are some folks, especially some of the Europeans, you just don't get to see that often. And I've got friendships around the world from this. Like, there was a chance I was going to be over and actually have a couple of weeks between trips to Europe where I was just going to have some time to hang out because there was no point coming back. And I had friends in Austria, Ireland, England, Slovakia. Like, I had folks, saying Switzerland, saying, yeah, just come and hang out with us. Come and hang out in our country and see Vienna. We'd like to show you around Vienna. So it's amazing. I just feel very fortunate to be part of this. And
make sure you give Merrick a hug for me. So anybody who doesn't know who Shutterlax is, check them out. Shutterlax Merrick is awesome. His English is not great, and neither is mine, so it makes for some very interesting conversations. But no,
our Polish isn't great either. So
mine is non-existent. So
yeah, me too. I can say Polska.
You got me beat.
Yeah, there you go. It's their country and their language. So it's fantastic. Check it out. Go to all the games are streamed on LCC Radotin. That's RADOTIN on their YouTube page. There's already an event set up, a playlist set up for the tournament this year for the 30th anniversary. It's going to be fantastic. They don't all have commentary, but I'll be calling a bunch of games. And honestly, the final a couple of years ago, the Nova Scotia over Custodes was one of the most exciting lacrosse games I've ever been part of watching and calling. It was unbelievable. I mean, it gives me chills just thinking about going back to it.
There's something about just the way it's run, and everybody who's been there says the same thing, because people are playing for like a community pride level. No, there's no money. It costs everybody money to get there, so it's not like anybody's out there to make money. But I mean, these teams, like, this is it's a pilgrimage for a lot of guys. You get out there. If you get out there once, you're excited. If you can do it more than once, it's even better. But I mean, so you literally have people who have been spending 20, 30 years now thinking about getting over there. So yeah, it's got to be quite the experience. I can't wait. We'll make sure we tag that playlist in the description next week. Not sure how ITWOBL's going to go. We might have to record you guys different times, figure it out. Yeah. What's the time difference over there?
5 or 6 hours. 6 hours. I should know that. I think it's 6 from Eastern time to Czech time. So which means and because we start on Wednesday, maybe we record on Tuesday. Tuesday is a day off for me over there because the tournament starts Wednesday, and then I'm just like I'm running back and forth to the scorer's box to the February.
We might have to do it Tuesday, but yeah, this has been a great show. We've gone an hour and a half though, so we can probably
and after we Carrie, she's on her way up towards us, and she's got one more exam later today, and then she's got her exit exams next week, and she will be done nursing school and going on to consolidation. So
congratulations. It's definitely something we always need more of as people in that field. We appreciate it. It's so much work people don't realize. Then you got to take boards, and everybody's like, oh, it's a quick degree. It's like, no, it's not that simple. You got boards, you got all kinds of internships you got to do, or clinicals they call them. But I mean, thank you very much to her for doing that, because without people like her, we would not have nurses, which we all know is the lifeline of the medical.
Yeah. Oh, it is. She just finished her clinical with the mom and babe section, like with the newborn section. She loved it. She was holding babies all the time and dealing with moms and babies. And it's one of the happiest parts of the medical field, right? I mean, people who've just had kids, like what better reason can you be in the hospital for?
100%. It's the only time you kind of look forward to going to the hospital. It's a good way of putting it.
Right? Yeah. So that's it. Privateers, 2-time defending champions. We'll see if they can make the three-peat custodian. There are some teams coming this year, by the way. Peterborough Lakers team making their first appearance, and the Victoria Leprechauns, who are a bunch of like WLA and Western Senior B guys. Those are going to be two interesting teams. They're both in the silver group. There's the gold divisions and the silver. You have to win your way out of the silver to the gold, and it doesn't matter that you have a bunch of Lakers or Shamrocks or whatever playing for you. You have to win your way up. So there's going to be some great. Just go look. It's Alice Rebesky, ahmemorial.com, I think. But check that out, and there are some remarkably competitive pools. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And then we've got a future idea for a show that I saw in the comments I didn't quite get to. So we did the NLL sixes, where you took the sixes. Now to take a PLL All-Star team and an NLL All-Star team, and we'll kind of vie them up together and go back and forth for each style, for a field style game and a box style game. I do like that, Tan. That would be an amazing game to see. Nobody's ever going to finance that, though, so we're not going to see it. But I do love the idea, and we could do a hypothetical. It would be fun.
I've got the box guys winning it all.
Always. I don't know how you can't. I mean, the IQ level is there. Yeah. It just the proof is in the pudding.
It was an actual field, like regular field game, but PLL is close enough to. There's elements of the smaller field and stuff. I don't know. It's closer to field, I guess, than sixes. So. Do one of each. So a six is a box and a field.
Okay, so 3. Yeah, all right. So now we've got our next time that we get everybody together. Yeah, that'll be fun. We'll have to do another one of those. But all right, good luck. Safe travel, Stamper, and we will keep everybody posted. Thanks, everybody, so much for watching. We appreciate it. Stamper, tell us where everybody can find you, because you will be making all kinds of posts while you're over there.
Yeah, at Stamplax on Twitter, on Instagram. Check out and obviously follow IL Indoor. We'll have lots of stuff about the NLL playoffs. I'll be writing some stuff about the Rebesky, the E-Box and She-Box, a lot of stuff going on. So, follow everywhere.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.